We all knew, no matter what, that 2021 was going to represent a changing of the guard and a new direction, a new era in Detroit Lions football. Coming from the firing of Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, thank God if you're a Lions fan, because it really couldn't get much worse. Well, I guess technically you did go 0-16 in 2008, the Matt Millen, Rod Marinelli era, but this is pretty bad too. And was going nowhere fast. It's especially worse when you think about the fact that this organization couldn't wait to fire the Mayhews and Caldwells of the world, and this is what you got. Yeah. And I also understand that initial press conference by Dan Campbell when he was hired to be the team's new head coach felt a little cringy maybe, when he's especially talking about busting kneecaps and stuff, and, public speaking maybe not his great forte, but damn it, I'll tell you what. You got a sense, like if you looked at it from a different perspective, that this dude might have it. Like if you're a Lions fan, you're really wondering, some of the big name candidates that are out there, some of the more noteworthy candidates out there, this is the guy that the new general manager is going to hire. This is the guy that you're tying the stake in the future of the franchise to. This guy, Dan Campbell? Yikes. But you got that vibe, that sense that this is the type of dude that could potentially be the leader of men, the type of guy, the type of dude that would sit there and be able to get people to walk through walls for him and players to walk through walls for him. Like, that's the sense that I got. And certainly you knew that whatever people leadership he had was going to need to be on full display in 2021 if the Lions were going to hope to be competitive in the least bit, because they also traded away the guy that had been the franchise piece for the past 12 seasons, and Matthew Stafford. He goes off to the Los Angeles Rams. So now you're a Lions fan, you're bringing in a new head coach, and all the while you're getting away from the quarterback that was the face of the franchise for a decade, and you don't necessarily have a suitable replacement in place. Jared Goff, no, I got it right the first time, Goof, is only a short-term stopgap and not a very good one at that. So you knew you were going to have to sit through potentially a rough year of that crap, and it wasn't going to be a great year. And then you wondered if Matthew Stafford was going to go off to the Rams and enjoy some success, and more on that in a moment. But this Lions season certainly got off to a rough start from a wins and losses standpoint. They started off the year 0-10-1. I mean, you go almost 3 months without winning a game. That's a tough spot. That's a tough place to be. But to the credit of the Lions, they were competitive in many of their games this year. They fought hard. They played hard. The measure to me of a coach is, what do they get out of the talent and roster that they have? And I find it hard to believe that a lot of other coaches would have gotten a lot more out of this roster than what Dan Campbell did in 2021. The fact that they were able to go 3-3 in their last 6 games and finish 3-13-1 is a positive sign for the future. Because this roster sucked. This team sucked. Period. We know that. They did. And you look at them and you say, okay, it's not all bad. The last month and a half of the season, they played better football. And now you're going into an off season because of the Matthew Stafford trade. Yikes, of course, it figures. He gets traded to Los Angeles in his first year there playing under Sean McVay. The Rams win the damn Super Bowl. But now you got 2 first-round picks. You got the 2nd overall pick of your own and then the 32nd overall pick for the Rams. While that's not as lucrative of a first-round pick as you might have hoped for, still that 32nd overall pick is pretty appealing in terms of teams that might want to peel back up into the bottom portion of round 1, get an extra first-round pick so they can get that 5th-year option on that rookie deal for a first-round type of guy. It's a good spot to be in. And you look at these Lions, they had 6 losses this past season by 8 points or less, plus the tie. So you think about that. That's 7 games that they could have, in theory, been in striking distance to win. They were in striking distance to win. Imagine if they won most of those games. And I know you're saying if and buts were candies and nuts, it'd be Christmas every day, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is that the record isn't necessarily reflective of, while they certainly had some stinkers this year. They had some really bad performances. They had a number of pretty good ones, even if they didn't result in wins. Like, they were playing past their skis. They were playing above themselves. And even when you look at what happened, they tied a playoff team in Pittsburgh. Yes, you could say without Ben Roethlisberger, but Ben was booty cheeks this year anyway, so what difference did it really make? They beat Minnesota, they beat Green Bay, so they got a couple of divisional wins. Should have beaten Chicago. Should have. Could argue should have beaten twice, but they should have certainly beat them in the Thanksgiving game. And then they beat Arizona. So they beat a couple of divisional opponents, beat two playoff teams, tied another one. And it's not all bad. They were competitive against some of the best teams in the league. And even when you look at their performance against the Rams, yes, they ultimately got beat by Stafford and the eventual Super Bowl champions, but Dan Campbell and the Lions came out swinging. They said, we don't give a fuck. We're going to go after it. And also, if you were better this year, the Lions in a lot of spots did a pretty good job of covering the spread. Now, the one thing I'll call out here for the Lions is you wonder how much differently you would view the future of this team right now if they had drafted Mac Jones or Justin Fields instead of Penei Sewell. Now, Sewell is a stud offensive tackle. I don't dispute that. But I remember when you saw the new general manager and Dan Campbell in the whole war room of the Lions, giving themselves high fives and doing what teams typically do, giving themselves backflips. Oh, my God, we're so excited because we took this guy, blah, 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 blah. I would sit there and said, man, you better hope you're right, because if you passed on one of these quarterbacks and one of these quarterbacks becomes a big deal in the league, you're going to look like clowns. And now you sit here in 2022, yes, you might have Sewell, and that's great, but what do you have at quarterback? Right now, the answer is Jared Goff, which equals nothing. 0 at the quarterback position. And now you're heading into a draft that, yes, you have a premium first-round pick, second overall. That should, in theory, put you in position to draft a franchise quarterback. But this quarterback class certainly looks a lot weaker than some previous years. So you never know from one year to the next when it comes to the class. Now, if you're looking for reasons for hope for this Lions team, I think they've got the right guy, a head coach potentially in Dan Campbell. And their 2021 draft class was pretty solid. When you look at Sewell, when you look at Onwuzurike, I think I just butchered his name, in McNeil, Melon Fonwu, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I was a big fan of coming out of USC. You start layering a couple of draft classes like that together, and this Lions organization, this Lions team is going to turn things around in a pretty big hurry. And when you go into this offseason, it's a team that has about $30 million in salary cap space. Yes, the salary cap is Fugazi, it's fucking fake, but it does start you off in a more advantageous position to be able to say, if you want to go get some guys, you can go get some guys, assuming that they'll want to come. You got to make some decisions on key free agents like Charles Harris and Khalif Raymond, Anzalone, just to name a few. But nothing that is too restrictive or too concerning if you're the Detroit Lions front office. And again, from a draft standpoint, you've got those 2 first-round picks. You could leverage those 2 first-round picks to either strengthen your immediate position as a team or potentially strengthen your position leveraging that draft capital to accumulate future draft pick capital in future drafts. Now, I don't know how appealing the number 2 overall pick is for teams in this draft, especially if the quarterbacks aren't viewed as being top of the draft worthy. And frankly, if there are quarterbacks that are viewed as top of the draft worthy, the Lions are fucking staying put and they're taking one at 2. But that 32nd overall pick is always potentially going to be appealing and always can be in play. And it's a good thing for the Lions because they need a lot of help. Not any one draft is going to fix this. It really isn't. But you're going to hear a lot in this offseason talking about the draft and the Lions at 2 and saying, hey, they got to choose between Hutchinson and Thibodeau. They got to get one of those defensive ends, one of those edge rushers. To which I say, it doesn't matter until they get the quarterback. Now, if you're going to sit there and take one of those guys at 2, you better hope that you get a guy at 32 or moving up from 32 a little bit, a quarterback that you can build around. But they got to get that guy. Because until they get that guy, they have nothing. This whole notion of, you got to build up the team around him. Yeah, that's great, but you want to be able to build the team around the quarterback and the quarterback's skills and the quarterback's talents. And wouldn't you rather fucking have the quarterback first? When in doubt, always get the quarterback first. Always. Don't wait. Because you don't know when you get that opportunity again to get him. So the Lions have to hope to God, really honestly hope to God that they can convince themselves that one of the quarterbacks in this draft is worth the 2nd overall pick. That's what they got to hope for. Whether there is one or not remains to be seen, but they have to hope that one of these guys is worth that spot. They have to. Because that's their number 1 need. Until they get a quarterback, it's all a fucking waste of time. And then once you get that young quarterback to build around, you've got to build around him on the offensive side of the ball. You've got something in Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that's one wide receiver you need more. You could beef up the interior of your offensive line a little bit. You could get a second tight end to go opposite Hockenson. Like, this entire draft doesn't have to be focused on the offense, but it needs a heavy offensive slant and a heavy offensive focus. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they just need skill and speed in terms of edge rushers, in terms of corners and secondary guys. They need some explosive athleticism and talent on that defense. The Lions, though, going into this offseason, probably wish there were a couple of can't-miss prospects at quarterback, but they're not. That's where I'm saying we'll see long-term if they pay the price for drafting Sewell and passing on Jones or Fields. Time will tell. But if they can find that quarterback in this draft, this Lions team could turn it around in a pretty big hurry.